This war, Part 176. As-Saba became Kuwait's dynastic monarchy in 1938. One tradition has it that political power went to the Sabahs as part of an explicit agreement. Merchant families focused on trade, while the House of Sabah and other notable Kuwaiti families provided protection of the city housed within Kuwait's wall. Let's talk about the modern era. There was independence and early state building in 1946 to 1989. Between 1946 and 1982, Kuwait experienced a period of prosperity driven by oil and its liberal cultural atmosphere. This period is called Golden Era. In 1946, crude oil was exported for the first time. In 1950, a major public work program allowed Kuwaitis to enjoy the modern standard of living. By 1952, the country became the largest oil exporter in the Persian Gulf. The massive growth attracted many foreign workers, especially from Palestine, Egypt, Iran, and India, to work in Kuwait. In June 1961, Kuwait became independent with the end of British protectorate at the Sheikh Abdullah as-Salim as-Sabah became an emir under the terms of newly drafted constitution. Kuwait held its first parliamentary elections in 1963. Kuwait was the first Arab state in the Persian Gulf to establish constitution and a parliament. Although Kuwait formally gained independence in 1961, Iraq initially refused to recognize country's independence by maintaining that Kuwait is part of Iraq, albeit Iraq later briefly backed down following a show of force by Britain and Arab League support for Kuwaitis. The short lived Operation Vantage crisis evolved in July 1961 as the Iraqi government threatened to invade Kuwait, and the invasion was finally averted following plans by the Arab League to form an international Arab force against the potential Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. As a result of Operation Vantage, the Arab League took over the border security of Kuwait, and the British had withdrawn their forces by 19 October. Iraqi Prime Minister Abdul Karim Qasim was killed in a coup in 1963, but although Iraq recognized Kuwait's independence and the military threat was perceived to be reduced, Britain continued to monitor the situation and kept forces available to protect Kuwait until 1971. There had been no Iraqi military action against Kuwait at that time. This was attributed to the political and military situation within Iraq, which continued to be unstable. A treaty of friendship between Iraq and Kuwait was signed in 1963, which Iraq recognized in 1932, border of Kuwait. The Kuwait Iraq 1973 Sanita border skirmish evolved on 20 March 1973 when Iraqi army units occupied Al Shamita near the Kuwaiti border, which evoked an international crisis. On 6 February 1974, Palestinian militants occupied the Japanese embassy in Kuwait, taking the ambassador and 10 others hostage. The militants' motive was to support the Japanese Red Army members and the Palestinian militants who were holding hostages on a Singaporean ferry in what is known as Lajo incident. Ultimately, the hostages were released and the guerrillas were allowed to fly to Aden. This was the first time that the Palestinian guerrillas struck in Kuwait, as As-Sabah ruling family headed to the Sheikh Sabah Salim As-Sabah funded the Palestinian resistance movement. Kuwait had been a regular endpoint for the Palestinian plane hijacking in the past and had considered itself safe.